Today, we are cracking open the story behind the most famous drink on the entire planet. And let me tell you, it is an absolutely wild ride. This isn't a story about a beverage company. It's about a wounded soldier's desperate mission to cure his own pain.
So I want you to just pause for a second and think about this. What if the most iconic, best-selling soft drink in human history was never, ever supposed to be a drink in the first place?
Yep, you heard that right. Coca-Cola only exists because a Civil War veteran was trying to invent a replacement for the morphine he'd become addicted to. The goal wasn't a soda, it was a painkiller.
Okay, so let's get into it. To really understand how this all happened, you have to understand the man whose personal suffering accidentally ended up changing the world.
So, this is John Pemberton. During the Civil War, he was a Confederate officer, and he took a nasty saber wound to the chest. It left him in constant, chronic pain. And what was the go-to treatment back then? Morphine. Lots and lots of morphine. So like thousands of other vets, he got hooked. But here's the thing. Pemberton was also a trained chemist, so he set out on a personal mission to invent his own cure, a painkiller that wasn't addictive. Now this is where the story takes a turn. His hunt for a cure went down this series of just bizarre, totally unexpected paths that led him somewhere he never, ever intended to go.
So in 1885, he gets inspired by this popular European wine that was infused with coca leaves, and he creates his own version, Pemberton's French Wine Coca. And people loved it. But then, just a year later, bam, his hometown of Atlanta passes these really strict prohibition laws, and his new tonic is illegal overnight. So he's forced to go back to the lab. He takes out the alcohol and makes this new sweet syrup instead. He takes it down to a local pharmacy, where a pharmacist has this brilliant, totally accidental idea to mix it with carbonated water. And right there, in that moment, Coca-Cola was born. That very first glass, on May 8, 1886, sold for just a nickel. Just think about that. A single tiny little moment in a local pharmacy that would eventually create ripples across the entire globe. But here's the kicker. Even then, it wasn't sold as a fun, refreshing drink. No way. It was still medicine. It was marketed as a health tonic, something that would cure your headaches and relieve exhaustion. The idea of it just being a simple soda, it hadn't even crossed anyone's mind yet.
So, and this is really the crucial point. Pemberton himself never saw what his creation could become. His health was failing, he never kicked his addiction, and he was broke. It took a whole different kind of person to see the future.
I mean, it's actually a pretty tragic story. To pay his bills, Pemberton started selling off pieces of the company to anyone who would buy. Sometimes he even sold the same part of the company twice just to scrape by. He died in 1888, almost completely penniless, with no idea that his little tonic would become a global phenomenon.
But one of the guys who bought a piece of the formula was a man named Asa Candler. And Candler was a sharp, aggressive businessman. He looked at this little tonic, and he didn't see a struggle. He saw a massive opportunity.
Candler took over and immediately rolled out this brilliant four-part strategy. First, he went all in on marketing. He slapped the Coca-Cola logo on everything, calendars, posters, signs, making it impossible to ignore. Second, he standardized the formula, so every single glass tasted exactly the same. That built trust. Third, he locked the price at 5 cents, a price that, incredibly, stayed the same for over 70 years, making it something everyone could afford. And finally, the game changer. He allowed other people to start bottling the drink, which put Coke on the path to every single town in America.
So Candler made Coca-Cola an American icon. But what made it a global icon? Well, believe it or not, the thing that took Coke worldwide was a world war.
During World War II, the company made this genius promise. They said any American soldier anywhere on the globe could get a bottle of Coke for just 5 cents. And to make that happen, they had to build bottling plants all over Europe, Asia, and North Africa. Well, when the war ended, the soldiers came home. But those bottling plants, they stayed, and so did the world's brand new taste for Coke.
All right, you need to brace yourself for this next part, because the numbers we're about to get into are so massive, they're almost impossible to wrap your head around. The scale of this brand is just mind-boggling.
Get this. Every single day, we as a planet consume 2.2 billion servings of products from the Coca-Cola company. I mean, just let that number sink in. That's not a typo. 2.2 billion every day.
And we're not just talking about the classic red can. Oh no. The company owns over 500 different brands, more than 900 different kinds of beverages, sold in over 200 countries. If you decided to try one new product of theirs every single day, it would take you more than 2 years to get through them all.
Okay, think about the most famous symbols in the world. What comes to mind? Maybe the Olympic rings, the Christian cross. How about the recycling symbol? Well, it turns out the Coca-Cola logo is recognized by more people around the world than any of them. It's just staggering.
And it's not just the logo. The actual words Coca-Cola are the second most understood term on Earth. The only thing more universally understood is the word okay. That is a level of cultural power that is almost hard to comprehend.
And for one last, just completely insane statistic, if you took all the bottles of Coke sold in a single year and lined them up end to end, that line would stretch all the way to the moon and back again more than 2,000 times.
So, after all that, the crazy history, the marketing, those astronomical numbers, what's the real story here? What's the one thing you should really take away from all this?
It's this. The world's most powerful, recognizable brand was never supposed to happen. It wasn't a grand plan cooked up in a boardroom. It was a complete and utter accident, born from one man's desperate personal mission to ease his own suffering. And honestly, that might be the most surprising part of the entire story.